Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome to Books My Quiet Friends. My name's Sidny and today I'm here to bring you a review and a spoiler. Today I'm here to review for you The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. All these opinions are my own. Of course, the normal disclaimer that I didn't use last week on the tag is that if you don't like my opinions, that's fine. You don't have to agree with me. But these are just what I think, and I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. I'm sure most people have heard about this book by now. The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas is inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement. It follows our main character, Star, who goes out to a party one night, and after leaving this party, her and her friend, her childhood friend, get pulled over by a police officer, resulting in Khalil getting shot, and he was unarmed. And kind of how her life changes and how her community changes based on these things. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars, unsurprisingly. I was wondering, after I'd heard so many great reviews, what really I was going to think about this book, and I think it's an important book for this time. This book really helped me to understand, as someone who is rather privileged as a middle-class white woman, to see what other people fear, because I've never had to fear a police officer, or I've never felt like I've had to stay super focused and look straight ahead and not look like a quote-unquote thug driving when a cop car drives by. These are things I've never had to consider at all, and I'm extremely grateful, but I think that this is something that no one should experience. It's ridiculous. There's no reason that people should be nervous about other people who are supposed to be protecting a community overall. That being said, I'm not saying the feeling of the characters in the book or other people's feelings towards police brutality don't matter. I'm simply stating that I wish that that's not how the world was, and I'm hoping that by realizing this and taking action towards the Black Lives Matter movement, that I can make a difference and help people feel safe in their communities with police officers who are supposed to be protecting everyone, not just the white people, not just their fellow police officers, but making everyone feel safe and welcome. I would honestly suggest this book for anyone between the ages of 15, younger even, 13 to 85, older. I think that you don't really understand this perspective until you read from this perspective, and I know that I'm not even getting the full reality, like the full fear, the full idea of watching a friend get shot. I can't even imagine, but this book took me a step closer to trying to put myself into someone else's shoes, and I think that's really important in today's society. Another aspect I really liked about The Hate You Give was the family. Often in books such as these, I feel like the family is portrayed as a bad home life. Quite frequently, it's a not great home life or whatnot. I think in this book, the author did a great job of showing a loving, compassionate family who cared about each other, who were real with each other, who were loyal to each other, but also had their flaws. I think that was very important, and it made me really upset that these people didn't really exist, which I'll get more into in the spoiler part of this review, but yes, I love the family aspects in this book. So to wrap up my non-spoiler thoughts, I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I would recommend it strongly to anyone who is interested, and I think it's an extremely important book for our time. I loved it. It was important. It hurt my heart. All the things. Alright, and so now I'm going to be starting into the spoiler section for The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I think that this book is so freaking important. I am a person who has not experienced nearly as much as Star has. She has witnessed 2 deaths in her community, that of her younger friend when they were 10 years old by a drive-by gang shooting, and then her friend being shot by a police officer who's supposed to be keeping everyone safe. Which is a ridiculous idea because as we watch from Star's perspective, Khalil does nothing wrong. All he does is turn around and open the door to see if she's okay, and he gets shot. If that happened to a white person, it would be on the news forever. And it's ridiculous that this book just... that this is realistic for some people. This is the way their lives are. They fear police and justice because they are unjust. Does that make sense? Okay. I also think that the story is really important because it was realistic. Yes, the police officer never does get tried or put in prison, which is unfortunate, but think about how many stories we hear where the person who is shot is explained away as a thug, a gangster, a drug dealer, a pimp, whatever, what have you. It's often that their bad qualities outweigh the fact that they were killed unjustly. And to see a girl younger than me having to go through the whole act of defending her friend who died, of having to answer questions about him like, did you know he was dealing drugs? That has nothing to do with the fact that he was shot over a hairbrush. It's ridiculous and not okay. But on a happier note, I really did like the family aspect in this book. I loved Maverick. I loved the mom, and I can't remember her name right now, but she just, oh, my heart. Seven was another great character. I think that he was awesome to read from. And I also like the aspect that it dealt with interracial relationships, not just friendships and relationships with justice. It also dealt with romantic relationships. Chris is white, Star is black. He will never truly understand what she's been through, but he is trying to understand. Some of the parts that severely broke my heart in this book were, I mean, there were a lot, but Khalil getting shot, Haley turning out to be a huge asshole, pardon my language, but oh my god, how does she think that's okay? I have not been raised in the most diverse community, but no one should say that to their friends ever. It's not funny. Also, when Maverick gets checked in front of his own store and made to lay down on the concrete in front of his children, oh, I'm tearing up just thinking about it, and how that makes him feel just so mad and so frustrated. And especially to feel like he was humiliated just because him and another store owner were having a discussion. They weren't even fighting. There was no violence. No one was starting anything. But someone felt it was appropriate to humiliate him in front of his children and his community. I think another important aspect that's brought up by Maverick and other characters in the story is the cycle of poverty. The way in Garden, not a lot of people come into Garden with big branded businesses for teens to get jobs, to get the money that they need to get out of poverty. So they end up going to people like King, or I can't remember the other gang's name, and they sell drugs, and they fight for territory, and they feel like this is the only chance they have to figure out what to do with themselves. And by the time they're in too deep, it's often too late for them to try and get out of this circle, and they already have children of their own. The fact that Big Mav is able to get out after he serves those 3 years in prison is inspiring, but it's also horrifying to hear about how they didn't have money for anything because he refused to go back to the gang life. And it takes someone generally strong to be able to not go back to that way of life after being at it for so long. I can't imagine what that would have been like for him and for his family at that time, or what it was like for Star growing up for 3 years without having a father figure. But I think that it's really important that we do get to hear about her flashbacks and how he felt while he was gone, and how Uncle Carlos played a role, and how Mom felt, and everyone overall. I think it was really important. I also think it was really important that Seven was her half-brother. Because of the way the story is told, we get to see Maverick from his time with King, but also from his time where he is doing his own thing, trying to be a better man and make better for his community. And while Seven has definitely become a part of the family and is a part of the family, I think that the woman who is Seven's mother is definitely going to be a sore spot for Maverick and Star's mother. That being said, I think that the fact that they care so much for Seven and they take care of Kenya and the youngest sister is important because they're trying to do better for their community. They're trying to do better for everyone overall. Overall, I was at least satisfied with the way King got wrapped up. That being said, I wish that this book wasn't quite so realistic, if that makes sense, because this is some people's lives. They are living in a poor community where they cannot outrun poverty, and they're doing anything they can to provide for themselves, for their families, or doing what they've seen done for generations, and it's heartbreaking, but it also inspired me because I have a voice. I can use that voice, and I can help people in these communities, in my own community, and I can just be a person to stand up and say, no, that's not okay, that's not fair, that's not right. And on that very heavy debated note, I hope all of this made sense. Overall, loved the book, thought it was very important, broke my heart into a million pieces. I love Maverick. He's my favorite character, possibly overall. Chris is also pretty great, but I mean, Maverick's love for Star knows no bounds. I would recommend this to anyone, and if you haven't read it already, I think you should definitely read The Hate U Give. It's an extremely important book for our time period, especially in the states where gun violence is, I'm gonna say it, out of control. I live in Canada. Things do get out of control here too. Things happen here all the time where I wonder about them. But I hear about a lot more things happening in the States. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you next time. Bye!